I'm Sean from One With Nature, and as promised in the title, I will be sharing a publication with you, an easy to obtain and very inexpensive publication, which will save you a lot of time, energy, frustration, and money. Everybody likes to save money, right? That's always a good thing. Many of us are on a journey, and we are traveling down a sometimes long, twisty, confusing road. It's the road towards a superior level of human health. And this book will help you avoid the landmines, potholes, dead ends, which many people stumble into. The publication I want to talk about today is known all over the world as Guytons Physiology. As a friend of mine says, it was written by a genius who truly cared about his fellow man. This is a singularly unique work in the history of modern medical texts. This is the 10th edition. You can buy this online today. I'll put a link down below. You can buy this today for between $4 and $15. If you want to further your knowledge regarding human health, it will be the best $4 to $15 you've ever spent. This edition came out in 2000. I paid about $75 for it. So you guys are getting a great deal for only $4 to $15. These are used copies in excellent condition. The price of this book compared to the benefit you will receive from it is way lopsided in your favor. Besides wanting to save you a lot of money, another reason I'm telling you about this book is because I get a lot of people who are just starting out and they say to me, I want to learn more about herbs. What authors do you suggest? What herb books did you read when you first started out? Well, you're asking about the wrong subject. If you want to help people with anything health related, if you're serious, if you really care about helping yourself, family members, loved ones, maybe people come to you for advice because they trust you. You first need to understand the basics of how the body works and not be swayed by clever marketing language and propaganda found all over the internet and beyond. Then you can begin to understand how your chosen healing modality is affecting the people that come to you for help. You're able to ignore the multiple missiles of propaganda, marketing language, sales tricks, and you're able to focus in on what really matters. You're going to have a protective shield around you, a shield called knowledge. This is considered the gold standard when it comes to the basics of human physiology. It's probably the most read and probably the most influential medical textbook on human physiology in modern medicine. This is a substantial book. It clocks in at a little over 1,000 pages, but don't let that deter you. This is in your favor. A lot of what's in here is information which is written in different ways in order to pound the basics, pound them into your head. This is a medical textbook. It was written expressly for med students when they are in the beginning stages of learning about human physiology. The first year of med school is incredibly important. It can also be incredibly stressful. People can just quit, leave, and never come back to any type of schooling ever again. It can set the tone for everything that follows. So the author of this book, Dr. Arthur Guyton, really expressed over and over in this book's different chapters how the different parts of the body work. He truly wanted you to understand just how amazing you are. Med students have to cram in a lot of knowledge in a limited amount of time. This is well known, very stressful. There's jokes made about cramming for tests. I've talked to people who were in med school. They've told me how many chapters they have to read every night if they have any hope of keeping up, not just from one book, but from many books. Like I say, it can be very stressful. But none of this applies to you. Now you're in control. Time is on your side. You have the advantage. You can learn at your own pace from one of the finest textbooks in medical history. If you read 1 page a day from the chapters I'm going to suggest in a minute, in a handful of months you will be able to run rings around a lot of so-called health experts in the holistic health arena. I know this book can save people thousands of dollars. There is no doubt in my mind. Because for years now, I have seen what happens when people don't understand the basics of how the body works. People will go out and buy products, machines, very expensive supplements. They'll pay for online health courses costing sometimes thousands of dollars, and in the end, they don't get what they paid for. Once you understand even the basics of how the body really works, and that's all I'm talking about here, the basics, it will save you from spending money on products or classes, devices, machines, gadgets, many of which are worthless. Some things could negatively impact your health, or in the case of online classes or other programs, you're being taught half-truths. I've been there. I've seen it in person with my own eyes. You're going to be a lot sharper when you encounter misinformation, whether intentional or accidental, or when you encounter outright scams in the holistic health arena. In all areas of human endeavor, there are those who prey on others. This is human nature, and it will never change. People get away with this usually because scammers they're counting on a lack of knowledge on the part of the person they've set their sights on. All right, there's a target on you. And there are people who are trying to separate you from your hard-earned money. When you know how the body really works, not only are you going to be much more effective in helping your fellow man, but your wallet is going to be a lot thicker from all the money that you've saved. If you only read the first chapter, the chapter on the stomach, chapter on the respiratory system, and especially, this is very important, especially the chapter on how the body regulates the pH of the blood, organs, tissues, using 3 redundant systems which save your life every day, I guarantee you, you are going to be light years ahead of most people's understanding of how the body works on a basic physiological level. A lot of supposed experts on health I've met, you're going to leave these people in the dust. I guarantee it. Some of you may be saying, hey, that's a medical textbook. I don't trust Western medicine. People have had bad experiences with Western medicine. We know this. You've heard the horror stories. I've heard the horror stories. So people get frustrated and they turn their backs on Western medicine. They go to the largest and easiest alternative they can find. Some people call it the holistic health arena, holistic health. But then something bizarre happens. It seems like many people just switch off all critical thinking and they begin to accept whatever is shoveled out from questionable sources. Books like this, and I will be making a video about other books as well, but books like this are the antidote to rampant misinformation. This all starts with you. You cannot counteract all the misinformation on health out there. It's impossible. There's way too much. It's a waste of your time. All you can do is educate yourself and protect yourself and your family. Then your knowledge spreads out to others. It's a grassroots effort. Then you can go online and argue with people. You might be saying, if this book is so great, why haven't I ever heard of it before? You know, that's a really good question. Think about that for a minute. Because if you don't have any background in Western medicine, it's unlikely you would have ever run across this book. Of course, some of you who will see this video, you're the exceptions, thankfully. Perhaps you sought this out on purpose. Perhaps you're highly educated. I've been to local neighborhood holistic health expos. I was at a couple just a few weeks ago. I've been to international health expos. All very nice people. Had some great conversations. I've met some truly talented and unique people. People who, they're not craving the limelight. They're just out there doing their own thing. Brilliant people. But every time I bring this book up, or bring up the subject of reading a book on human physiology, nobody knows what I'm talking about, unless they come from some type of Western medical background, or they are unusually educated, unusually motivated and educated. I've spoken face-to-face with very well-known health gurus. If I told you their name, you probably wouldn't have to Google them. You'd know who I'm talking about. I've talked to people who have spent 10, 20, 30 years in the holistic health world, and we will be talking, going back and forth, and eventually I will say, have you ever heard of a book called Guytons Physiology? Not one has said yes, unless, like I say, they were originally trained in some branch of Western medicine and came over to the holistic health side. Now, this doesn't mean that nobody in the holistic health world has ever read this book or other popular ones like it. There's just too many talented people in holistic health. There's too many great physiology books, great reference books out there. Popular ones are Linda Costanzo's Physiology. Walter Boron wrote a great book on physiology. Cindy Stanfield, she wrote a great book on physiology. Sherwood's book on physiology. Ross and Wilson, their book on physiology. There's a ton of well-known physiology books out there in the world. But you'd think that with all of the people I've talked to over the years, people whose passion is health and helping their fellow human beings, someone would have brought this book up first, or would know this book when I mention it. I mean, every other author is discussed to death. New book comes out, people buy it, study it, argue about it. The author goes on lecture tours. Why not some basic human physiology? You're smart. You can figure it out. It's ironic that people run to holistic health, they flee to it, and then they get fleeced. And the information which would save them comes from Western medicine. And it's so easily obtainable. You just have to know where to look. People will say, I heard that doctors are a leading cause of death in the United States. I had terrible experiences with doctors. I'm not reading a book that has anything to do with Western medicine. Well, this book tells you about the basics of human physiology. Maybe all those doctors who made their patients' lives worse should have paid more attention to the basics when they were in med school. When you take your car to a mechanic, he will have access to a complete illustrated breakdown of your car, from the headlights to the exhaust pipe. Every single part, how it's attached, and its purpose is laid out right before that mechanic. When you trust them to repair your car and they screw it up royally, do you yell at the repair manual, or do you yell at the mechanic? It's not the repair manual that's at fault if the mechanic wasn't paying attention to the basics, which are clearly laid out in front of them. Too many people make the mistake of ignoring the basics. How many professions can you think of where ignoring the basics guarantees you success? Would an athlete ever reach the Olympics if they ignored the basics? Talked about cars a second ago. How reliable would your car be if the designer decided to throw the basics out the window? Would you really want to fly in an airplane at 35,000 feet if the company that engineered it threw out the basics? I don't know if such a program or online course exists out there, what I'm about to describe. I've never gone looking for such a thing. Have to assume they're out there. Let's say you want to be an herbal practitioner. So you search for a program, you find one you like, they get in touch with you and they say, hey, look, We are going to give you the tools and the knowledge to be a tremendously effective herbal practitioner. We're going to bring you into the fold. We're going to do our absolute best to impart our knowledge to you. We've got great teachers with decades of real-world experience, so get ready. But before you sign up as a student in our program, you're going to need some prerequisite classes in human biology and human physiology. That's a must with us. Do you have those? Think of how many people would be turned away from such a program because they don't have the basics of how the body really works. I have to believe that the people who graduate from such a program would comprise a class of superior healers because they've already hit the ground running. They have completed a course where Western medicine and holistic health have joined forces. Tremendous knowledge, tremendous power. They're going to be able to spot propaganda, scams, misinformation a mile away, and they will protect the health and the wallet of the people who come to them for help. You may be surprised to find out how much you've learned already comes from Western medicine. When you first decide to check out holistic health, one of the first things you may encounter, a video perhaps, it's pretty popular, is the importance of the lymphatic system. A lot of videos on the lymphatic system. There are popular teachers and programs out there who emphasize the importance of the lymphatic system, and rightly so. They will tell you about foods, herbs, supplements, exercises for the lymphatic system, for the health of the lymphatic system, to get rid of blocks in the lymphatic system. Well, a lot of the information about the lymphatic system on the holistic health side of things comes from the author of this book, Dr. Arthur Guyton. This is the guy that built the foundation for much of our understanding of the lymphatic system. And he was a driving force behind gathering together doctors and non-doctors, interested parties from all over the world. He got them on board to share information and new discoveries about the lymphatic system. We didn't really know a lot about the lymphatic system in the early 1970s, especially compared to now. But Dr. Arthur Guyton, along with a notable few others, brought out the importance of this system, which is so extensive in the body. And we know a lot more today. Dr. Guyton worked with people who were outside the halls of Western medicine. They were basically, compared to Dr. Guyton, they were laymen. But Dr. Guyton didn't care. He was glad to work with people who were passionate about furthering our knowledge of the human body. So I feel that we owe Dr. Guyton a debt of gratitude. I mentioned Dr. Arthur Guyton in the first lymphatic video I did about 8 or 9 years ago. So this is your chance to read one of the great, singularly unique books in the history of medicine. The original creator of this book, Dr. Guyton, he was in his final year of surgical residency in 1946. A wave of polio swept across the U.S., and Arthur Guyton was struck down with polio. As a result, his left arm, both shoulders, and right leg were paralyzed. And just like that, his dream of becoming a surgeon was over. Arthur Guyton underwent 9 months of intense physical therapy. And while he was in therapy, he looked around at the poorly designed, probably antiquated equipment and devices, painful equipment and devices that other people who were undergoing therapy were supplied with. Remember, this was post-war. So now the medical professional begins to see life from the other side as a patient. And he thought, no, we can do better for these people. So he started designing better equipment for the physically challenged while he was in therapy. And this eventually earned him a presidential citation for his inventions. So later on, Arthur Guyton became a teacher of physiology, and he used crutches, metal braces, to hold himself up during lectures, or teaching perhaps from his wheelchair. And Arthur Guyton wasn't afraid to go against the mainstream. He was responsible for some groundbreaking ideas at the time regarding how the human body functions, ideas that were met with resistance from the medical community. Whenever you go up against the mainstream, it's not pretty. You can be savagely attacked. It could be the end of your career. It can be quite a process to introduce new ideas and have them watch them slowly gain acceptance over time. But Dr. Guyton persevered, and eventually mainstream medicine accepted Dr. Guyton's ideas and how he came to the conclusions that he did. The first 8 editions of Guytons Physiology were written solely by Dr. Arthur Guyton, an unprecedented achievement in medical literature. There are those who say that they greatly prefer the original copies. So you can get either one. They're so cheap, you can get one of each. One of the older ones and the ones post-2000. The only reason this book exists is because Dr. Guyton saw the frustration that his physiology students were undergoing. It's not that they had poorly written texts to learn from at the time, it's just that the texts were written so far over their head. So Dr. Guyton took his lecture notes and compressed them down into what would eventually become the first edition of Guytons Physiology. I think we're up to the 13th edition of Guytons Physiology now. And as our understanding of how the body works and new discoveries are made, then each new edition is updated. Understanding human health is a never-ending process. Understanding how herbs interact with the body, it'll take you a lifetime of study. You'll never know it all. That discourages some people. I find it tremendously exciting to never run out of new things to learn. So new discoveries are made, old paradigms are questioned, but the basics remain. Do we have a heart, lungs, stomach, intestines, a brain? How do they work? I promise you, how the body keeps us alive from day to day under an astounding variety of stresses and conditions in all walks of life is far more incredible than any marketing, sales language, or propaganda you will ever read on any website. You can read more about Dr. Guyton and his life spent in the medical world and beyond with his family and community at the links below. If you are a practitioner or a teacher of a healing modality, you can be good, or you can be great at what you do. Do you want to be great? Then it doesn't matter what other people think of you or your talents, because I hate to tell you, you're on your own. Very few people will be able to relate to you if you are on a path to greatness. Most people revel in the status quo. Nobody in any field of human endeavor has made a landmark contribution by doing what everybody else was doing anyway. When it comes to the basics of human physiology, if you want to learn from one of the greats, then this is one of the great foundational books that you will want to own. My name is Sean. I am one with nature. Thank you for watching.